He thought about the message he would send to the Galactic Council, and how that message would 6 days after the battle. A fleet of elegant silver ships emerged from jump space near the gas giant. The Terulan Concordat had arrived, their military vessels moving in perfect formation. Commander Thilvex watched them approach with mixed feelings. He was relieved to see his people's allies, but he also knew what their arrival meant. Everything was about to change. The lead Terulan ship, the Graceful Dawn, sent a communication request. Commander Val then appeared on screen, his tall form and crystalline skin marking him as a high-ranking military officer. The Terulans were a proud species known throughout the galaxy for their tactical brilliance and their sense of honor. Commander Thilvex, we received your distress call. We came as quickly as possible. Val then paused, his multifaceted eyes scanning the data in front of him. Our sensors show evidence of recent combat. The Scaraxian signatures are dispersed, damaged, but your station is intact. How is this possible? Commander Val, then much has happened. I think you should come aboard. There are some people you need to meet. An hour later, Val then stood in the Velnaris observation deck, staring at the bulky human ship that floated nearby. Thilvex had explained everything, but the Terulan officer was clearly struggling to process it all. Let me understand this correctly, Val then said slowly. An unknown species received your distress signal. They traveled 47 light-years in 14 hours. They engaged a Scaraxian hive ship with a single vessel. And they won? Yes, that is not possible. Commander, I watched it happen. They are called humans. They come from a Class 3 Deathworld-designated Earth, and they are... Thilvex searched for the right words. They are unlike anyone we have ever encountered. Before Val then could respond, Captain Minho's voice came over the communication system. Commander Thilvex, the Teguk Dawn is ready to depart. We wanted to say goodbye before we continue our mission. Captain Minho, please wait. There is someone here who would like to meet you. The communication shifted to video, and Val then found himself face to face with his first human. The Terulan officer had seen many species in his long military career. He had faced dangerous opponents and terrifying creatures, but something about those forward-facing eyes and that calm, confident expression made his instincts scream warnings. Commander Valthen of the Terulan Concordat, Minho said respectfully. It's an honor to meet you. I hope our presence here hasn't caused any diplomatic problems. You are the one who defeated the Scaraxians? Val then asked. My crew and I did what we could to help. We're explorers, not soldiers, but we couldn't ignore a distress call. Val then looked at this creature who spoke casually about fighting a hive ship. Captain Minho, would you be willing to meet in person? The Galactic Council will want to know about your species. As a Terulan officer, I am authorized to make first contact on behalf of the Council. Minho glanced at something off-screen, probably consulting with his crew. We'd be happy to meet with you, Commander. Though I should warn you, humans can be a bit intense in person. I am a military officer. I have faced many dangers. Then we'll be right over. 30 minutes later, the 4 humans stood in the observation deck. Valden had brought 2 of his officers with him, and they all tried very hard not to show their discomfort. The humans were larger than expected, moving with a predator's grace even in the station's low gravity, but more unsettling was their casual attitude in the presence of 3 armed Terulan officers. Thank you for coming, Val then said formally. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome humanity to the wider community of civilized species. Thank you, Commander, Minho replied. We're honored, though I have to admit we had no idea there was a galactic community until 6 days ago. You were unaware of the Council's existence? How is that possible? Lieutenant Park Hana shrugged. Space is really big. We've only been exploring our local area. We just got lucky finding Commander Thilvex's distress signal. Lucky, Val then repeated. Commander Thilvex, you called it lucky that Deathworlders received your signal instead of your allies? Thilvex met the Terulan officer's eyes. Yes, Commander. I call it lucky. These Deathworlders saved our lives when no one else could have arrived in time. They risked themselves for strangers. They showed us kindness and respect. So yes, I consider myself very lucky. Val then was silent for a moment. Then he turned back to the humans. Captain Minho, I must ask, what are humanity's intentions regarding galactic civilization? Your species is clearly powerful. Your technology, while primitive in some ways, is effective. Your people are resilient and capable. What do you want? It was Dr. Yuna who answered, her voice gentle but clear. We want what everyone wants, Commander. To learn, to grow, to find our place in the universe. To make friends. To help when we can. We're not looking to conquer or dominate. We're just trying to figure out where we fit. And if other species fear you because of your nature, Engineer Jiho spoke up. Then we'll have to prove we're worth trusting. Actions over words, right? We can't change where we come from or what we are. But we can choose what we do. Val then studied each human carefully. He had read the reports, seen the battle recordings, reviewed the biological data. By all logic, these beings should be aggressive, territorial, dangerous. But they spoke of friendship and help. They had risked their lives for strangers. Either they were lying, or they were genuinely this contradiction of deadly capability and peaceful intention. The Council will want to meet you formally, he said finally. There will be debates, concerns, protocols to follow. Some species will fear you. Some will want to study you. Some may try to test you. We can handle it, Minho said confidently. We've been handling being human our whole lives. We'll figure this out too. Later that evening, after the formal meetings and reports, Pranala found herself alone with Dr. Yuna one last time. The Teguk Dawn would leave in the morning, continuing its journey into unknown space. Will you come back? Pranala asked. Yuna smiled. Probably not to this exact spot. But humanity knows about the galactic community now. We'll send diplomats, scientists, explorers. You'll see plenty of humans. Are you scared of how other species might react to you? A little, Yuna admitted. But being scared never stopped humans from doing what needs to be done. We'll make mistakes. We'll probably offend someone accidentally. We'll have to work hard to prove ourselves. But that's okay. Nothing worth having comes easy. Dr. Yuna, what do you think will happen when humans join the galactic community? Yuna looked out at the stars. I think there will be challenges, misunderstandings, growing pains. But I also think there will be wonderful things. New friendships, shared knowledge, cooperation between species. Humans have a saying, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. That doesn't just mean humans working with humans. It means everyone working together. Even Deathworlders and regular species, especially Deathworlders and regular species. Maybe that's the point. You teach us gentleness. We teach you resilience. Together we're better than we are apart. The next morning, the entire Velkorian crew gathered to see the humans off. There were formal thank yous and ceremonial exchanges of gifts. But there were also hugs, handshakes, and promises to stay in contact. Captain Minho was the last to board his ship. He turned at the airlock to face Commander Thilvex one final time. Thank you for giving us a chance, Commander. I know we're not what you expected when you sent that distress signal. Thilvex made the Velkorian gesture of deep respect. Captain, you were exactly what we needed. Your signal was meant for friends, and Deathworlders answered, I consider that the greatest fortune of my life. Then I hope we can remain friends. The galaxy is big, but maybe we'll cross paths again. I would like that very much. The Teguk Dawn departed slowly, its engines leaving trails of blue light against the black of space. On the Velnaris station, the crew watched until the human ship jumped away, vanishing into the distance. What do you think will happen now? One technician asked. Thilvex thought about everything he had learned, about courage and kindness existing together, about choosing to help despite fear, about bridges built between impossible differences. He thought about the report he had sent to the Galactic Council, recommending full diplomatic relations with humanity. He thought about the future that was now unfolding. I think, he said slowly, that the galaxy just became a more interesting place, and I think perhaps that is exactly what we needed. Across the stars, the Teguk Dawn continued its journey. Inside, the crew reviewed their next destination and discussed what had happened. They had left Earth as explorers searching for knowledge. They had found not just knowledge, but friendship. Not just aliens, but people. Captain, Lieutenant Hana said from her station, I'm picking up another signal. Not a distress call this time. Looks like a general greeting beacon from an unknown species. Minho smiled. Set a course. Let's go say hello. Because that was what humans did. They explored. They learned. They reached out, and when someone needed help, whether friend or stranger, they answered the call. It was not because they were Deathworlders. It was because they were human. And maybe in a galaxy that was just learning what that meant, it was going to make all the differ. Over the next 2 days, the Velnaris station became a place of careful cultural exchange. The humans worked on repairing their ship while getting to know the Velkorians. Every interaction brought new surprises and occasional moments of mutual shock. Prenala had become fascinated with humans. She spent hours talking with Dr. Yuna, asking endless questions about Earth and its people. They sat in the station's observation deck, the gas giant's colors swirling below them as Yuna patiently answered each question. "So you intentionally damage your muscles?" Prenala asked, her antennae twitching with confusion. "This exercise you speak of. You hurt yourself on purpose?" Yuna nodded. "The muscles tear slightly, then heal stronger. It's how we build strength. Most humans exercise regularly to stay healthy. But why would you need to be stronger? Your world has already survived. You have technology. Habit, I guess," Yuna said thoughtfully. "Our ancestors needed to be strong to survive. Hunt, fight, run, climb. Even though we don't need those skills as much now, we still feel better when we're physically capable. It's in our nature." Prenala tried to imagine deliberately hurting herself to become stronger. The concept was alien in the most literal sense. Valkorians were not built for strength. They were built for efficiency, for grace, for gentle environments. What else do humans do that seems normal to you but might surprise us? Yuna laughed. "Oh, you're going to regret asking that. Let's see. We voluntarily jump out of perfectly good aircraft with parachutes for fun. We climb mountains because they're there. We dive deep into oceans despite the pressure and darkness. We eat foods that other species would consider toxic. We keep predators as pets in our homes." Predators? As pets, cats and dogs, descended from wild hunters. But we domesticated them thousands of years ago. Now they're part of our families. Yuna pulled out her tablet and showed pictures of her own dog, a large golden retriever. "This is Bori. He's waiting for me back on Earth." Prenala stared at the image. The creature was clearly a carnivore with powerful jaws and sharp teeth. "And this lives in your dwelling? Does it not attack you?" "He's the gentlest soul you'd ever meet. Dogs love humans. We evolved together. They protect us, we care for them. It's a bond that goes back tens of thousands of years." The young Valkorian was quiet for a moment. "Dr. Yuna, do humans bond with each other in the same way? Our species forms chemical bonds with our mates. It is biological, inevitable. But you have no such mechanism. How do you choose partners?" "We fall in love," Yuna said simply. "It's emotional, not chemical. We choose to be together because we want to, not because biology forces us. And yes, sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes hearts get broken. But when it does work, when two people choose each other freely, it's beautiful." "Choice," Prenala murmured. "Everything with humans comes back to choice. You choose to exercise despite the pain. You choose to explore despite the danger. You choose to love despite the risk. That's freedom," Yuna said. "And it's worth everything." Meanwhile, engineer Jiho was in the station's maintenance bay with 3 Valkorian technicians, comparing their technologies. He was having the time of his life. "This is brilliant," he said, examining their bioorganic circuitry. "It grows and repairs itself? We don't have anything like this. All our systems are purely mechanical or electronic. Show me how the nutrient feed works." The Valkorian engineers, initially nervous around the large human, had warmed to his genuine enthusiasm. They explained their technology, and Jiho listened with rapt attention, asking questions and taking notes. "Your turn," one of them said shyly. "Can you explain how your ship survives such extreme conditions? The radiation alone should destroy your electronics." Jiho grinned. "Shielding. Lots and lots of shielding. Lead polyethylene, even water tanks. We basically wrap everything important in layers of protection. It's heavy and inefficient, but it works. Oh, and redundancy. We have backups for our backups. If one system fails, 3 others can take over. That sounds excessive. On Earth, excessive is just called prepared. Our planet taught us that everything that can go wrong probably will go wrong, so plan for it." He pulled up schematics of the Teguk Dawn on his tablet. The Valkorians crowded around, their eyes widening as they saw the complexity. Every system had multiple redundancies. The ship was built to take damage and keep functioning. "This is a warship design," one technician said. "No, this is a civilian exploration vessel. Our actual warships are much more heavily built." Jiho paused. "Actually, all our ships are built like this. When you come from a death world, you learn that space is trying to kill you, so you build accordingly." The Valkorians exchanged glances. They were beginning to understand that humans did not see danger the way other species did. To a human, danger was just another problem to solve through engineering and preparation. Captain Minho spent most of his time with Commander Thilvex, discussing more serious matters. They sat in the commander's office, sharing information about their respective civilizations. The Galactic Council will want to know about humanity, Thilvex said carefully. Your arrival will cause significant debate. Some species may see you as a threat. Because we're Deathworlders, Minho said. It was not a question. Yes. In galactic history, species from harsh worlds have often been aggressive, militaristic. They take what they need because their home planets taught them scarcity and competition. Minho was quiet for a moment, thinking, Commander, can I tell you something about human history? We've had wars. Terrible ones. We've fought over resources, over beliefs, over territory. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times. But we also learned from those mistakes. We learned that cooperation was better than competition. That sharing was better than hoarding. That peace was better than war. And you believe all humans follow this philosophy now? No, Minho admitted. We're not perfect. We still have conflicts, still have problems. But as a species, we're trying. And when someone sends a distress call, politics and philosophy don't matter. Someone needs help, so you help. That's not a human thing, Commander. That's a decent being thing. Thilvex felt his opinion of humans shift again. These were not simple creatures. They were complex, carrying violence and compassion in equal measure, shaped by a world that demanded both strength and cooperation. What will you do now? He asked. Your ship is damaged. You have discovered you are not alone in the universe. Will you return to Earth? Minho shook his head. We'll repair the Teguk Dawn and continue our mission. Exploration, learning, and now meeting new friends. He smiled. Though I should probably send a message home. Hi, Earth, we met aliens. They're nice. Also, we're galactic Deathworlders. Surprise. Despite his anxiety, Thilvex found himself laughing. It was a strange sound, mixing with Minho's deeper human laughter, but it felt natural. Good. That evening, all the humans gathered in the station's common area with the Velkorian crew. It was supposed to be a formal dinner, but it had become something more casual, more friendly. The Velkorians served their traditional foods, and the humans politely tried them, even though the low protein content and bland flavors were not ideal for their metabolisms. Jiho regaled them with stories of Earth, describing Seoul's massive towers, the Himalayan mountains, the Amazon rainforest. Each description made the Velkorians' eyes widen with horror and fascination. And people live in all these places? Prenala asked. Even the dangerous ones? Especially the dangerous ones sometimes, Jiho said. Humans are stubborn. We go where we're told we can't go, do what we're told we can't do. It's kind of our thing. Lieutenant Park Hana, joining via video link from the ship, added, My grandmother used to say, tell a human something is impossible and they'll do it just to prove you wrong. We're contrary like that. But why? Thilvex asked. Why seek out danger and difficulty? Minho thought about his answer carefully. Because challenge makes us grow. Because the impossible is only impossible until someone does it. Because we want to see what's on the other side of the mountain, even if the climb is hard. He looked around at the Velkorian faces. Why do you explore space, Commander? To learn, to discover, to understand the universe. Same reason we do, Minho said. Maybe we're not so different after all. As the evening wore on, barriers continued to fall. The Velkorians taught the humans their traditional songs, though the humans' vocal range made the melodies come out strange and deep. The humans taught the Velkorians a Korean folk game, adjusting the rules for their different physiology. When it was time for the humans to return to their ship, the goodbyes were warm and genuine. Prenala hugged Dr. Yuna carefully, mindful of her delicate frame against the human's sturdy one. Thank you for everything, the young Velkorian said. You changed how I see the universe. Thank you for giving us a chance, Yuna replied. We know we're scary at first. You are, Prenala admitted. But you're also kind, brave, and wonderful. As the humans departed, Thilvex stood with his crew watching the Teguk Dawn through the observation windows. The damaged ship was already looking better, repairs progressing quickly. They'll be leaving soon, he said quietly. Do you think we'll see them again? Prenala asked. Thilvex thought about everything that had happened. The battle, the conversations, the laughter shared despite all differences. The battle had been raging for 3 hours. Thilvex's people watched their screens with a mixture of terror and awe, as the human ship continued its impossible dance through the combat zone. Wave after wave of Scaraxian drones came at them, and wave after wave was destroyed. "Their ship is damaged," Pranala reported, her voice tight with worry. She had been tracking the Teguk Dawn's condition. Hull breaches in sections 4 and 7, power fluctuations in their main drive, radiation leaking from their reactor shielding. "Should we tell them to retreat?" one of the technicians asked. But even as he spoke, they watched engineer Choi Ji-ho doing the unthinkable. He had suited up and gone outside the ship, into the middle of the battle to repair the damaged sections. His small figure moved across the hull, welding torn metal, replacing blown circuits, working calmly as debris and weapons fire filled the space around him. "He's going to die," Pranala whispered. "One hit, just one piece of shrapnel, and he's dead." Thilvex checked the probability calculations. 78% chance of fatal impact within the next 10 minutes. No sane species would take those odds. But Ji-ho kept working, his movements steady and efficient. "Teguk Dawn, your engineer is in extreme danger," Thilvex transmitted urgently. Captain Minho's response was calm. "Ji-ho knows what he's doing. He's been in worse situations." Worse? What could be worse than repairing a ship in the middle of a battle? Ji-ho finished his work and pulled himself back inside through the airlock. 8 minutes. He had completed the repairs in 8 minutes, and not a single piece of debris had hit him. "Skill or luck?" Thilvex was not sure which terrified him more. "Repairs complete, Captain," Ji-ho reported, slightly out of breath. "We're back to 80%. But I need to talk to you about something interesting I noticed." "Tell me." "The drone ships are coordinated, right?" "They're not thinking individually. There's got to be some kind of signal controlling them. If we could disrupt it." "Yuna's already working on that," Minho said. "How much longer, Doctor?" In the Teguk Dawn's medical bay, Dr. Lee Yuna was surrounded by equipment that looked like it belonged in a laboratory, not a combat zone. She had synthesized a compound based on the biological samples she had pulled from destroyed drone ships. The Scaraxians use pheromones for communication, and she had created something that would scramble those signals. 5 more minutes, she called out, even as the ship shuddered from another impact. A container fell from a shelf and shattered on the floor. Yuna stepped around the broken glass without pausing her work. "The compound is stable, but I need to adjust the dispersal method." Pranala watched this through the video feed that Minho had opened to keep them informed. "She's working in a combat zone. Why isn't she afraid?" "Oh, I'm terrified," Yuna said cheerfully, apparently hearing the comment. "But fear doesn't make the work go faster. Commander Thilvex, I hope you don't mind, but I've been reviewing your medical data. Fascinating biology. Your regenerative capabilities are impressive." "Thank you," Thilvex said uncertainly. How could she think about biology at a time like this? "Done," Yuna announced, holding up a small capsule. "Captain, if we can get this into the middle of their swarm, it should cause chaos in their coordination." "Hana, you heard the doctor. Get us in close." Lieutenant Park Hana grinned, her hands already moving across her controls. "Finally something fun. Hold on, everyone!" The Teguk Dawn accelerated directly toward the Scaraxian hive ship. Thilvex felt his heart skip a beat. They were going toward the enemy, not away. The ship dove through layers of drones, taking hits but never slowing. Hana piloted with a precision that seemed impossible, threading through gaps that barely existed, using gravity and momentum in ways that defied Velcorian understanding. 20 seconds to launch point, she called out. She was eating again, Thilvex noticed. More of that spicy poison. How could she eat during this? "Missile loaded with Yuna's compound," Ji-ho reported. "Ready to fire. Do it." The missile launched, streaking toward the heart of the drone swarm. It detonated in a cloud of bioactive particles. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the drones began to scatter, their perfect formation breaking apart. They crashed into each other, spun wildly, lost all coordination. "It's working," Pranala shouted. "The swarm is falling apart." The hive mind felt confusion for the first time in its existence. Its drones were not responding correctly. The signals were wrong, corrupted, meaningless. And worse, the small ship with the fragile creatures was still fighting, still surviving. How? They should have been dead. Nothing that weak should survive this long. The hive mind made a decision. Retreat, analyze, understand, then return with better preparation. The massive hive ship began to turn, pulling away from the gas giant. "They're leaving." One of the station technicians cheered, but Minho was not celebrating yet. "Hana, status report. We're in rough shape, Captain." Hull integrity at 40%. Main weapons offline. Life support is working, but the backup systems are fried. We need repairs. Can we make it to the station? Yes, but we won't be fighting again for a while. Minho opened a channel to the Velnaris. Commander Thilvix, the immediate threat has passed. We're coming alongside your station. Our ship needs repairs, and we'd like to meet you in person if that's acceptable. Thilvix felt a complex mix of emotions. Relief that they had survived. Gratitude toward these impossible beings who had saved them. And fear, still fear, because now these Deathworlders would be coming aboard his station. Of course, Captain. You are most welcome, though we will need to prepare special accommodations. Our atmosphere may not be suitable for you. We'll bring our own air, Jiho said, joining the conversation. Standard environmental suits. Don't worry, Commander. We're used to adapting to different environments. Comes with being human. An hour later, Captain Minho, Dr. Yuna, and Engineer Jiho stood in the Taeguk Dawn's airlock, suited up for the transfer to the alien station. Lieutenant Park stayed behind to manage the ship's repairs. Everyone ready? Minho asked. Remember, we're here as friends. Try not to scare them any more than we already have. How do we know we've scared them? Jiho asked. Yuna laughed. Jiho, they've seen our planet specifications. Trust me, they're scared. The airlock opened, and the three humans floated across the gap to the Velnaris station. The Velkorian crew waited nervously in their docking bay, watching as the Deathworlders approached. Thilvix stepped forward as the humans entered. Up close, they were even more intimidating. Tall, thick-boned, moving with a predatory grace even in zero gravity. But Minho removed his helmet, showing his face clearly, and extended his hand. Commander Thilvix, it's an honor to meet you properly. I'm sorry our first contact had to be under such stressful circumstances. Thilvix reached out hesitantly with one of his forearms and grasped the human's hand. Minho's grip was gentle, careful not to hurt the more delicate Velkorian. That simple act of consideration eased some of Thilvix's fear. The honor is ours, Captain. You saved our lives. We are deeply in your debt. No debt, Minho said firmly. You needed help. We answered. That's what neighbors do. Neighbors? Pranala asked, stepping forward. But we are not the same species. We had never met before today, Yuna smiled. In space, anyone who needs help is a neighbor. Besides, we're all just trying to survive out here, right? Jiho was already looking around the station with interest. This is amazing. Your biotechnology is incredible. Is that a living wall system? Does it actually photosynthesize? We don't have anything like this on our ships. His enthusiasm was genuine and infectious. Pranala found herself relaxing slightly. Yes, it produces oxygen and filters toxins. Would you like to see our research lab? Would I? That would be incredible. As Jiho and Pranala walked off, already deep in technical conversation, Thilvix turned to Minho. Captain, I must ask. Your world, Earth. The data says it is extremely dangerous. How do you survive there? Minho thought about his home. The storms, the earthquakes, the predators, the diseases. He thought about human history, all the struggles and triumphs. He smiled softly. We survive because we have to, Commander. And then somewhere along the way we learned to do more than just survive. We learned to live, to dream, to help each other. That's what makes us human. Thilvix looked at this creature from a nightmare world, who spoke of dreams and helping others, and realized something profound. The most dangerous thing about humans was not their deadly world or their powerful bodies. It was their choice to be kind, despite having every reason to be cruel. That was truly terrifying and truly wonderful. Captain Kang Minho smiled at the view screen, trying to appear friendly and non-threatening. He had no idea that his expression was having the opposite effect on the aliens watching him. This is Captain Kang Minho of the exploration vessel Taeguk Dawn, he said slowly, hoping the translation would work. We received your distress call and have come to assist. Commander Thilvix stared at the creature on his screen. The translation was working, but that only made things worse. This being had come to help them. Every instinct in his body screamed danger. Those forward-facing eyes meant this species hunted. That bare skin suggested either extreme confidence or a world so deadly that nothing could threaten them. And that smile, showing flat grinding teeth and sharp canines, was the stuff of nightmares. You are not Terulan, Thilvix managed to say, his voice shaking slightly. Terulan? No, we're human. From Earth. Minho glanced at something off-screen. Our AI picked up your distress signal. We're an exploration ship, but we can help. Pranala was frantically searching the galactic database. Earth brought up nothing. No registered planet, no known species, no diplomatic records. These humans were completely unknown to galactic civilization. Captain Minho, Thilovec said carefully, "We are grateful you responded, but you should be aware. That vessel approaching us is a Scaraxian hive ship. They are extremely dangerous. Your single ship should not engage them. You should leave while you can." Minho's smile faded, replaced by a more serious expression. "How many of you are on that station?" 12, Thilovec answered. "Then we're not leaving," Minho said simply. "Lieutenant Park is already positioning us for defense. We'll do what we can." Before Thilovec could protest further, another human appeared on the screen. This one had longer hair pulled back and wore a different uniform. "Commander Thilovec, I'm Dr. Lee Yuna, Chief Medical Officer. We should establish basic biological data in case there are casualties. Can you transmit your species' medical information?" Thilovec numbly authorized the data transfer. Within seconds, the humans had complete Velcorian biological specifications. "Interesting," Dr. Yuna murmured, reviewing the data. "Low gravity evolution. 0.4 standard G. Thin atmosphere. Lower temperature tolerance. We'll need to be careful about that." She said it so casually as if those conditions were unusual. But for most species in the galaxy, those were normal conditions. What kind of world did these humans come from? Pranala pulled up the data the humans had sent in return. Her antennae went rigid with shock. "Commander, you need to see this." The file described Earth, a Class 3 death world. Gravity, 1.0 standard G. More than twice what Velcorians could tolerate. Atmospheric oxygen, 21%. That was enough to be a fire hazard. Tectonic activity, extreme. Weather systems, violent. Native predators, abundant. The list went on. Radiation levels that would require heavy shielding for most species. Temperature swings of over 60 degrees. Something called hurricanes and earthquakes and tsunamis that killed thousands at a time. And these humans lived there. They evolved there. By the ancestors, Thilovec whispered. They're from a nightmare world. On the Teguk Dawn, the crew was preparing for combat with practiced efficiency. Lieutenant Park Hana's fingers danced across her controls, plotting vectors and trajectories. She chewed absently on a piece of gym, the dried seaweed snack reminding her of home. "The hive ship is big," she reported. "Really big. But it's slow. I can keep us mobile. Use the gas giant's gravity wells to our advantage." "The station's in bad shape," Engineer Choi Ji-ho added from the engine room. "Their shields are basically tin foil. One good hit and they're done," Minho nodded. "Then we make sure they don't get hit." "Ji-ho, what do we have for weapons?" "Mining lasers, obviously. I can overclock them for short bursts. We've got kinetic missiles, point defense systems, and the EMP charges for asteroid clearing. Oh, and I've been tinkering with the plasma torch. Might make a decent close-range weapon." "Good, get everything ready. This is going to get messy." Back on the Velnara station, Thilovec watched in horror as the human ship moved into position. It was performing maneuvers that would pulp any Velcorian into paste. The G-forces alone should be lethal, but the humans seemed unconcerned. "They're insane," one of the station technicians said. "No one can survive that kind of acceleration." But the humans were surviving it. More than that, they were working efficiently, calmly, as if flying in conditions that would kill most species was perfectly normal to them. Pranala noticed something else. "Commander, one of the humans is eating something." They watched as Lieutenant Park consumed her snack while piloting through a debris field at impossible speeds. The scanner analyzed the food, capsaicin, a compound most species used as a pest deterrent. "The humans were eating poison for pleasure. What are they?" Pranala asked, her voice barely a whisper. The Scaraxian hive had noticed the new arrival. The hive mind probed the strange ship, analyzing its composition and power signature. It detected organic life aboard, weak and fragile. The ship itself was crude, built from refined metals and simple alloys. Not a threat, the hive mind made its decision. Eliminate the newcomer, then consume the station. It sent out a wave of drone ships, 500 strong, to swarm and destroy the human vessel. Minho watched the swarm approach on his screens. "Here they come." "Hana, keep us moving." "Ji-ho, fire when ready." "You sure about this, Captain?" Ji-ho asked. "That's a lot of angry bugs coming our way." "I'm sure we're not leaving those people to die," Minho replied. "Fire." The Teguk Dawn opened up with everything it had. Mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids sliced through drone ships like they were paper. Kinetic missiles, simple chunks of metal accelerated to extreme speeds, punched through hulls with devastating effect. Point defense systems created a web of fire around the ship. Thilvex and his crew watched in stunned silence. The humans fought like nothing they had ever seen. There was no elegance, no careful strategy. It was brutal, efficient, and absolutely terrifying. They used weapons that relied on explosions, on kinetic force, on raw power, things that would never occur to species that evolved on gentler worlds. "They're actually hurting them," Pranala said, disbelief in her voice. "The Scaraxians are taking damage." Dr. Yuna's voice came over the communication channel, calm and professional. "Captain, I'm analyzing the enemy ship's composition. I think I can synthesize something that might disrupt their coordination. Give me 30 minutes. You've got 20, Minho replied, grunting as the ship pulled a hard turn. "We're going to be busy out here." Thilvex felt something shift inside him. These humans, these Deathworlders, were fighting for them, fighting against impossible odds for people they had never met, from a species they had just learned existed. It was insane. It was reckless. It was the most incredible thing he had ever witnessed. Engineer Jiho's voice crackled over the comm. "Boss, I'm going to try something stupid." "How stupid?" Minho asked. "Remember that plasma torch? I'm going to vent it directly at the next wave. It'll overheat the system and probably fry half the circuits, but it should clear them out." "Do it." "I love this job," Jiho muttered, and got to work. Pranala turned to her commander. "Thilvex, what are they?" The commander watched the human ship dance through the combat zone, weaving between enemy fire, striking back with savage efficiency. He thought about their impossible biology, their deadly world, their casual acceptance of danger that would paralyze any sensible species. "They're Deathworlders," he said quietly, "and I think we just learned why distress signals should specify exactly who you're calling for help." But as another wave of Scaraxian drones exploded against the humans' defenses, Thilvex found himself thinking that maybe, just maybe, calling the wrong people had been the right mistake to make. The research station Velnaris floated peacefully in the dark of space, its silver panels reflecting the soft glow of the massive gas giant below. Inside the station, Commander Thilvex reviewed the day's reports with his usual careful attention. The Velkorian leader moved his 4 delicate arms across the control panels, his large eyes blinking slowly as he checked each system. Everything was normal, just as it had been for the past 3 years. Science Officer Pranala hummed a soft melody as she analyzed mineral samples from the gas giant's moons. She was young for a Velkorian scientist, barely 2 decades old. But her enthusiasm made up for her lack of experience. Her slim, graceful body swayed slightly as she worked, her antennae twitching with excitement at each new discovery. "Commander?" she called out, her voice like wind chimes. "The crystalline formations on the 3rd moon are fascinating. I believe we could—" The station's alarm shattered the peaceful moment. Red lights flooded the research bay. Thilvex's body went rigid as his screens filled with impossible data. "What is that?" Pranala whispered, her voice trembling. A massive shadow emerged from nowhere, tearing through the fabric of space itself. The ship was enormous, easily 50 times the size of their small station. Its surface crawled with organic-looking metal, pulsing like a living thing. Thousands of smaller vessels swarmed around it like insects around a hive. "Scaraxians," Thilvex breathed, his worst fear confirmed. The locust race. The devourers. They consumed everything in their path, stripping worlds of resources and technology before moving on to their next victim. His training took over. "Send the distress beacon. Emergency frequency. Code it for the Tyrolean Concordat only." Pranala's fingers shook as she entered the commands. The message went out across the stars, carrying their location, their situation, and their desperate plea for help. The Tyrolans were their allies, strong and capable. They would come. They had to come. "How long until they arrive?" Pranala asked. Thilvex calculated quickly. 6 days. Maybe 8. "We need to hold out until then." The small crew began their emergency procedures. They backed up critical research data. They sealed the outer sections. They prepared their weak defensive shields knowing they were designed for asteroids, not warships. 47 light-years away, Captain Kang Minho was drinking his 3rd coffee of the day when Lieutenant Park Hana called from the bridge. "Captain, we're picking up something strange." Minho set down his cup and headed to the bridge of the Teguk Dawn. The exploration vessel was not elegant or beautiful. It was a working ship, built solid and practical, with sensor arrays and equipment pods attached wherever they fit. It had carried them safely through 2 years of deep space exploration. "What have you got, Hana?" he asked. The navigation officer frowned at her screen, her short black hair falling across her eyes. "It's a signal, but not in any format I recognize. The AI is trying to decode it now." Dr. Lee Yuna looked up from her medical station. "Could it be natural? Some kind of pulsar, or it's artificial?" The ship's AI interrupted. "And it's a distress call. I've managed to translate the basic meaning. Unknown species under attack requesting military assistance." The bridge went quiet. First contact. This would be humanity's first time meeting an alien civilization, and it was happening because someone was in trouble. Engineer Choi Jiho climbed up from the lower deck, wiping grease from his hands. "Did I hear that right? Someone out there needs help?" Minho looked at his crew. They were explorers, not soldiers. Their ship had weapons, but only because every human ship was built that way. Earth had taught humanity to be prepared, but their mission was to explore, to learn to map the stars. "How far?" he asked. 47 light-years, Hana replied. "With our jump drive, maybe 14 hours. "That's a long way to go for people we've never met," Jiho said carefully. "We don't know what we're jumping into." "We don't," Minho agreed. "But they're broadcasting a distress signal. Someone is in danger." He thought of old Earth traditions, of boats that answered calls for help across dangerous seas. "We can't just ignore it." Yuna nodded. "Maritime law, space law, same principle. You answer a distress call." "Besides," Hana added with a small smile, "isn't this why we came out here? To meet someone new?" Minho made his decision. Set course. Maximum jump speed. And prep everything. We have no idea what we're going to find when we get there. The Taeguk Dawn's experimental jump drive powered up, drawing massive amounts of energy. The ship vanished from its location, beginning a series of precise jumps that would cross the vast distance in hours instead of years. Back at the Velnara station, Thilvex watched the Skaraxian hive ship slowly approach. The swarm was taking its time, confident in its overwhelming power. His people had bought themselves perhaps a day before the attack would begin. "The beacon is transmitting," Pranala reported. Continuous loop. "The Tarulans will definitely receive it." "Good," Thilvex said, trying to sound confident. "We just need to survive until they arrive." He did not tell Pranala that the Skaraxians would likely destroy the station in the first wave. He did not mention that their defensive shields would last perhaps 30 seconds against that kind of firepower. He was the commander. His job was to give his crew hope. Pranala seemed to sense his thoughts anyway. "Commander, do you think—" "I think the Tarulans are the finest military force in the sector," he said firmly. "And I think we are Velkorians. We are researchers, scientists, seekers of knowledge. If these are our last days, we will face them with dignity." She nodded, her antennae drooping slightly. They both knew the truth. But sometimes knowing the truth and speaking it were two different things. 14 hours later, space tore open near the gas giant. The Taeguk Dawn emerged from its final jump, its sensors immediately sweeping the area. The crew saw the Skaraxian hive ship. They saw the small damaged station. They understood the situation immediately. "Battle stations," Minho ordered calmly. "Hana, get us between that hive and the station. Jiho, I need all weapons online. Yuna, prep medical. This is going to get rough." On the Velnara station, alarms blared again. Another ship had arrived. Thilvex's heart leaped with hope. The Tarulans were early, but as the sensor data loaded, his hope turned to confusion, then to creeping dread. The ship was wrong. Its design was asymmetrical, functional, but not elegant. Its power signature was different from anything in the galactic database. And when the communication channel opened and a face appeared on the screen, Thilvex felt his blood run cold. 2 eyes, forward-facing, predator eyes, bare skin without any protective covering. And when the creature spoke, showing its teeth, Thilvex understood with terrible clarity. They had not summoned help. They had summoned something far more dangerous. They had summoned Deathworlders.